Good evening, I'm Alex Redmond and this is the Sarasota Film Festival. And tonight we viewed a documentary in its first world premiere from the Veterans Filmmaking Academy. The documentary is called Returning, and it specifically addresses the traumas that the veterans go through when they're returning from Iraq and from Afghanistan. Now, this is a wonderful documentary because it also tells you about what happens in the Veterans Treatment Court. There's a judge that actually speaks to the veterans and gives them the tools that they can use to go on with their lives and to find peer navigators that will help them. These peer navigators are also people that have worked as veterans and have been out there on tours of duty themselves, so they truly understand the problems that these veterans are going through. This judge is specifically trying to keep these veterans out of jail by giving them the tools to do so, but it's not always possible. So tonight we're going to meet not only the veterans that were in the movie and involved with it, but also the ones that were producing, directing, the sound, everything else. So we're very honored tonight at this Sarasota Film Festival. We're standing in line waiting to get in for the world premiere of the Veterans Filmmaking Academy movie, Returning. And I have Bill Ludwig here. He is a retired Navy veteran. Bill, thank you for your service. Let's start with that.
Thank you. Thank you. It's lovely, and we certainly appreciate your putting on this film festival.
What do you think about veterans post 9/11 getting together from Iraq and Afghanistan, these guys, and getting together to make a documentary?
I think it's wonderful. Our stories need to be told. Yeah.
What do you hope that before going into this that the audience may take away from this by getting an insight as to what actually happens with people?
Well, I mean, being in the service is not easy. You're leaving your home, your wives, your children, who knows what's going to happen. But, you know, we serve proudly.
The name of the documentary is Returning. How challenging can returning be to civilian life following?
It's very difficult. We drink, we raise hell, have a lot of fun, we get in trouble, and you need a counselor or somebody to help you along the way. And I have a master's in guidance and counseling, and that's what I do now.
Well, I think that this movie is going to address some of those things that are the supports that are there to help our veterans. And again, we thank you for your service, Bill.
Thank you.
Brian Jacobs served 2 tours in Iraq, and he's here tonight to see the movie Returning. Thanks for coming tonight.
Oh, no, thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here. There's so many struggles that veterans face, coming home. And, I myself have struggled. I lost my younger brother to veteran suicide. And so I know the struggle is all too real. So this is really a great thing to kind of enlighten the people around the world and also see the struggle of veterans coming back to the United States.
What about the fact that these veterans are getting together to work on a project and learning a new skill? But this skill that they're doing is making documentaries about veterans, could that somehow help them? Would it be cathartic? You as a veteran would know.
Yeah, well, the great thing is that there's so much closed information about what a veteran is, and the hard part is that veterans most times are confused with the civilian population. We come back to a world where people say we should be able to fit, where we actually don't know who we are. We actually struggle with personal identity because all you do know is the military, and it's very hard to shut that off. And so this movie, I hope, will help educate a lot of people.
Now, you yourself have a program where you work with your brother and sister veterans, training them to be chefs.
I do.
And you're a chef yourself.
I am.
So how does something like this, which gives somebody structure and a skill for life, help people, especially when they're trying to assimilate again?
Well, the great thing about a program like this is based upon skill sets that the veterans already have. All I'm doing is giving them passion, inspiration, and direction, things that every veteran needs when they become a civilian. So these programs are designed just to give them that stepping stone, mentorship, organization, because you're not taught to be a civilian, you're taught to be a soldier, you're taught to be a Marine, taught to be a sailor. And these are things that we need to reteach to veterans coming home.
When you find somebody and all of a sudden the lights start shining in their eyes again because they found something through you teaching them through your culinary program, how does this change someone's life? I'm sure it can't be everyone, but for the one where you see that light just go off.
Well, it's true. You can't actually save everyone, and that is the thing, is they have to have that inside of them to want to save themselves. And the biggest part of that is for them to understand that they need help. Most veterans refuse to ask for help because we're prideful, and unfortunately, we're seeing the demise of 22 a day. We're seeing veterans take their lives because of this pride. And people coming through these type of programs where they can reassimilate to life it's life-changing. I've had over 27 veterans go through my program, and every one of them can say that they changed their life, and it's an amazing feeling.
And how can we, the general public, civilians, best help to let you know how much we appreciate you? How can we be the most support?
Well, in my industry, I'm in the restaurant industry, and, we have a great network here in Sarasota. The restaurateurs stand behind what I'm doing, and they're looking to hire smart young people that are looking for an opportunity to change their life. And, just by giving the programs that are actually legitimate and actually supporting local community-based programs, that's the biggest thing. I believe in Wounded Warrior Project, I believe in Wounded Warrior Regiment, Odyssey, I believe in it all. But we have to start with the little guys in order to help the big guys. We have to create a flow, a process.
With the training that goes into being in the military, how does that help with things like this project returning? If you were to work, it's not just the cast, but it's the crew as well. It's a whole filmmaking crew of veterans. How does the discipline help?
Well, the thing is that veterans, we speak a similar language, and that's the biggest thing, is that we have to actually learn to speak civilian again. And with veterans working with veterans, there's this already, we're on the same page, we're on the same mindset, we're on the same level, and we can already see what needs to happen, because we're willing to talk about our problems with each other, but we're willing not talk about it with other people on the outside, and that's the hard part. So projects like this actually help get the word out, the community involved, because people get to be a part of what Sarasota Film Festival is doing, and this is to me a great honor, because I'm going to see a lot today that probably is going to relate to my own personal struggles, but I've been able to kind of get past that dark side of dealing with the struggles of reacclimation. But I'm excited to be here.
And I'm sure a lot of your brothers and sisters will be there in the audience today.
Oh yes. We have a great crowd here. We have a great veteran community here, and I hope this is going to strike some nerves today. I mean, it's going to go deep. So we're just here for each other, and that's because we've all walked the same shoes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tonight I'm singing the national anthem, and it's so beautiful. I looked out. I've never actually seen it from that, angle from the stage out, and wow, it's amazing.
Have you ever sung the national anthem before for any audience?
Yeah, I actually sang for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That was a really fun time.
But tonight, this is a little bit different, because tonight there is a film that is made, a documentary that's made by veterans, people that have gone to fight for our country, returning veterans from Afghanistan and Iraq. And how is it going to be different when you sing this emotionally for these people that gave so much for us?
Well, it's absolutely, it gives me more of a purpose to be singing. It's always special to sing the national anthem, but when it's for veterans who have actually fought for our country, it's I feel like I'm giving a gift, small token gift to them for what they've done for us.
Thank you for sharing your talent.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Michael Scalia and Ray Chapman are both from the Veterans Filmmaking Academy, and both worked on the film Returning. So thanks, you guys, for contributing to the Sarasota Film Festival. This is a world premiere, I understand.
I heard that.
So tell me, how does returning and working on a project like this help veterans in real life? Because we know that it's difficult sometimes for a veteran to assimilate back into civilian life.
Well, I think like most of us, we like a lot of pictures, and a lot of people can learn a lot through film. And I think that this is a medium that they'll understand, but I think we've been able to capture it in their voice. And so it's not just a film for veterans, it's also a film for the Sarasota community.
What do you hope that the community is going to learn from this? Do you think it's going to open up some eyes about what it's actually like? Because I don't think anyone can imagine returning unless you've actually been there.
Yeah, I definitely think it'll give some new perspective in the veteran's shoes and help people to kind of relate to the situation and show what the community and the characters in the film are doing for veterans.
What did you do in the film?
I was a director and also did some of the cinematography.
How challenging was that? Was this a new project for you?
Yes, we all helped out with, everyone had a part in directing and everything, so it was a great team. And I'd also like to give a shout out to SRQ Vets and thank you to Project Rebirth.
Absolutely, and I understand that Project Cohort is a subsidiary of Project Rebirth. Can you explain how those two work together?
Well, I think that this Project Rebirth was the first, and the Cohort is an offshoot of that. But from that, they actually have seen a lot of voices with what veterans can bring, and so they want to tell those stories.
Do you think that this is going to be something that gets a lot more popular with veterans, because it could be somehow cathartic to be working with other veterans, and there's that camaraderie of working with someone that you know how their work ethic is and the way that they work?
I definitely do. I think actually in producing we learned that it's kind of the same teamwork skills that we've always used in the military. We work towards one mission and everybody does what we need to do collaboratively, and so I think for veterans it really does feel good to work with other veterans.
What part of the story or working on this story wrung out emotionally for you?
Well, there's parts that some techniques we sort of use to relate people to kind of get them in the courtroom or in the scenes where they would actually care and have a different perspective. But really all around it was inspiring the characters, being honest, and just giving a piece of themselves to help out others during some of their most vulnerable times. So,
thank you for your service, both of you, and thank you for delivering a beautiful documentary.
Thank you.
thank you very much.
All right, Jason, so let me ask you, how does it feel to be a non-veteran working with veterans? Was this a different type of a workflow for you?
Absolutely. I didn't have a lot of familiarity with veterans, and I thought I knew a little bit about veterans from what I'd read in the newspaper, but ultimately you have to sit down next to people and get to know them to really understand what their experiences were like. And this group of people that all served very honorably in our military had so much to offer, were wildly creative, and came to the project with incredible ideas that I think were in part sourced from their experience in the military and then folded into very interesting lives that they had lived. So it was a little bit, they had a very distinct artistic voice from the start.
What was the one common thread that you found of working with the veterans, something that seemed to ring throughout?
I think empathy. I think empathy all around. I think that working with them helped me a little bit to understand exactly the effect that being in the service has on people. And I'd like to think that being in the court and seeing the sort of decisions that people have made and the problems that they've had, sometimes as a result of these experiences they've had in the military, made me feel empathetic and made me more determined to help than ever.
Can you explain how the Veterans Court is covered in this documentary?
Well, this documentary really is a day in the life of Veterans Court, and you get to see, we take you into Veterans Court and you see a very compassionate, honorable Judge Owens deal with the veterans in a way that isn't about locking them up, but it's more about giving them chances to get their lives back on course.
Because we do know that assimilating can be a very difficult thing.
That's right, and that's why ultimately the title of the film is about that. It's about returning home and trying to re-assimilate into our greater society and be successful.
Thank you, Benjamin.
You're welcome.
What made you decide to do a film on returning and having veterans try to assimilate back into civilian life? Because we know, either one of you can take this, but we know that this can be a very difficult thing.
We were simply looking for a great story to follow, and we had a few different stories. We wanted to keep it local. We wanted to keep it personal. When we heard about Veterans Treatment Court, we knew that what the impact would be if we made a film about it. And we were interested, and I think that goes for any film, you want to be interested in something to make it. We were interested to see where that would lead. And so we decided to do it on Veterans Treatment Court, but it didn't come out exactly how we planned, as all films do. And so it led down paths that, as we'll tell you throughout the night, it changed our lives, it changed the lives of the participants that shot it and whatnot, and we're just really happy to be here.
How do you think that what the veterans learned from also working on this film in collaboration with Triforce, Project Cohort, Project Rebirth, you guys all worked together, and how did this help the veterans?
It gave them the opportunity to not only learn a new skill as far as filmmaking and being able to take that skill out into the world creatively, professionally, and it really gave them an outlet to express themselves, for them to put out a message, a form of therapy for themselves, and really getting the word out to other veterans that there is treatment like this that can help them.
Well, what's the one thing that you learned from the veterans? Because it is a different workflow from working with a regular film crew. These guys have special training in things like discipline, but there's also the emotional thing where I'm sure they were more emotionally tied to some of the things that you were doing in the film, reliving certain things.
Right. I mean, I guess what I really learned is that there are people that can do anything, that they've just put their hearts and mind to. And, sometimes they're misdirected at times. Obviously, when you go through big situations, you can become misdirected, as many people are that go through situations like this. And the fact that Project Rebirth, the fact that the Sarasota Film Festival found a way to get them involved, to give them a way to be, more, to allow their emotions to come out, to teach them a skill, is just incredible.
And we hope that they carry the skill on, some of them, and take it to a new career.
Exactly.
Thank you, Sean.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Eddie Cacciola was very involved in the film, also with his son Sean here. So what did you learn from working on this? And in what capacity did you work on the film?
I was the director of photography, and I had no knowledge of the other side of a camera whatsoever prior to starting this project.
So you had no videography experience prior to?
Nothing.
So how did it start? How did the beginning of the process start? Was it like boot camp for videography?
No, it was just, that's a good question.
Well, were you taught by veterans primarily, but you also have Sean, and you have some other people that are not veterans?
We had Triforce Pictures, which is a great production company, and with their knowledge and insight and guidance, really put us in the right direction. And then when we would have our valuable time with Jason Benjamin, every time he was here, the project took another leap or bound or 10 steps forward into becoming what it is now.
Was it unusual to work on a film where you're not only working with other veterans but also civilians? How did those two different dynamics seem to gel on a project that requires a lot of discipline but also a lot of art?
It was pretty simple with the veterans. Veterans work well together, and you put them in any environment, and instantaneously, whatever the mission or objective is, we will figure it out. And I think the veterans probably contributed a lot more than even some of the professionals.
And did you help out in some capacity?
I was just moral support, more or less.
Well, I wouldn't say just moral support, because when veterans return from any type of tour, that's what they need more than anything, because if you have that moral support, you know someone is there that can help catch you when you fall.
Well, I feel like him and I have always been together and having each other's back. And when sometimes he needs to lean on me and sometimes I need to lean on him, so it's for the both of us.
What was it like having him switch gears and go into filmmaking? I mean, this is kind of a big deal.
Well, I've always been in love with film, and it's great to see something that he's passionate about.
Are you going to follow his footsteps now that he is a filmmaker?
Actually, I'm following his footsteps because he is quite the actor, and I guess he would definitely have more knowledge and experience in this field than I.
What is your hope for him in the future with filmmaking?
To be one of the best, if not the best.
And what do you think he's going to do?
Be the best.
Sergeant Jeff Garner was the audio mixer. He took care of all the sound on the movie.
Yeah, I was also the peer leader for the group. That's part of the Project Rebirth. As far as like us having like a support group for each other, this is supposed to be a process that we use as veterans to transition and also to build resiliency skills as well.
How does filmmaking help veterans, especially for those that fall in love with it? And I'm sure that you could see the gleam in someone's eyes when they were like, wow, I'm really enjoying this. How did it help them?
Yeah, I know. So for a lot of us veterans, combat veterans especially, we use a lot of different ways to kind of find peace and, settle our minds. And I know for me, getting involved in this project allowed me to be very focused on the editing process. I spent several hours one night and didn't even realize how long I had been spending doing that. It was very good, almost like therapeutic for me.
It's cathartic. So does it take you outside yourself to where when you're actually sitting there at an edit bay, putting the bits and pieces of a story together, you forget about everything else and you get wrapped up in the story?
Yeah, that's the part that was very therapeutic for me, was just being able to get like really focused, very deep into the material, and all the other stuff that's in my head went away. So I was able to just spend a lot of time, and it just felt so calm afterwards. It was just such a great experience.
Well, we look forward to seeing your skills in returning.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, Helen, could you tell me a little bit about Project Rebirth? What exactly is it?
Sure. Project Rebirth is an organization based in New York City that has worked for over 15 years to help people who are dealing with grief, loss, and trauma, whether that's from personal tragedies, from large-scale events that make the news, or from having spent time in a traumatizing or challenging environment. And that's a daunting mission, and in this world it's a mission that continues.
Now, out of Project Rebirth, Project Cohort was born?
Yes. Our chief tool for helping people to heal, hope, and grow more resilient is film. And the Sarasota Film Festival was an absolutely natural partner for us to find ways to kind of hand that power to some people who could really do some good with it. And when John Secor, who was at the 9/11 Museum in New York and then came down to Sarasota here, got in touch with us and said, this is something that the Sarasota organization would be interested in making happen, we were right on it. We have worked with veterans extensively. We have worked with active duty military, and of course, we make films. And I think what you're going to see tonight is an amazing collaboration that has come out of that.
How do you use social media in order to get the word out there about projects like this film returning?
Sure. In the veteran community, first responders community, you name it, it's about sharing the journey of these individual stories of these people, because each one of them have an impactful story to tell. And each one of the people that are involved, even the crew of this amazing film, has such a story to share. So, visually speaking, just the journey from day one to tonight, people are going to see the journey from start to finish. On Sarasota's social media pages, on Project Rebirth's social media pages.
If people want to access the film, people that weren't able to come to it, where should they go to see snippets or see the film in its entirety?
Once it gets through the festival and all of that, it'll be available on our website. It'll be available on social media as well. So we're very excited, looking forward to that.
You can speak of your involvement in the film.
I'm the Director of Education, and so my mission is to take the narratives that are in the film and turn them into lesson plans, discussion guides, curriculum points, so that people who watch the film are prepared to watch it and then have a meaningful discussion afterwards. We're working with middle school, high school, college students, graduate students, and veterans.
What is the number one thing that you want people to know before going into the film?
That they are going to see something that is completely unusual, that they didn't expect. This is a wonderful story about something that we don't often hear about related to veterans, but the most important story is that the narrative that's being told is being told from the veterans' perspective. So we really are privileged to understand what they're experiencing.
And what is the one thing that you want people to learn and to take away from the film?
That everybody's narrative is important and that we all should be comfortable to tell our stories, and that these men and who are featured in the film and who are the filmmakers really have done us all a great service so that we can understand more about their experience.
Judge Andy Owens is, of the movie, returning, and you are the judge for the treatment court, the Veterans Treatment Court, I understand.
That's correct. I love it. And we have so many outstanding participants. It's been one of the highlights of my judicial career.
Can you explain in brief what the Veterans Treatment Court is?
Well, basically what we try to do is just give veterans that have fallen on hard times a hand up. It's not a handout. We're trying to give them an opportunity to get their life back. And so we have counselors, we drug test, and we provide various group services for them.
And when you say treatment court, people think you're going to court and you're getting a sentence, or do you write a prescription for a recovery or for help? Is that how it works?
We write a prescription for future success, and that means making changes in your life. And that's what our counselors basically do, is give them a roadmap so that they can be successful going forward like they were previously in their earlier life.
What happens if you give this treatment for success, but it's not quite working? How do you tweak that?
Well, everything, there's a time for everything, so we have sanctions. And as a judge, I can place them in jail, but typically I like to try to increase the treatment, essays, but if they continue not to follow our rules, we give them short periods of incarceration. We call it attitudinal adjustment.
How can the general public, how can civilians best help veterans to assimilate and support them so that they don't turn to things that could possibly put them into a situation where you might prescribe them to have an attitude adjustment?
Well, the only way they come to us is they've been arrested on a criminal charge. So primarily the thing that the regular citizens can do is just assist them, be their friend, and if they have the ability to offer them work opportunities or employment opportunities.
Because everybody needs opportunity, in particular the people that have served this country.
Absolutely, and there's nothing like earning your own way and being able to pay for yourself. So that makes a big difference to their self-esteem. Most all of them have low self-esteem, and that's what we're really trying to do, is get their self-esteem back.
sometimes when you watch a documentary, it's certain things that make a difference, and a big difference can be made by the music that sets the mood for what you're watching and all that follows. So this is Greg Bortnicek. He is the composer from the documentary Returning. What inspired you, Greg, to come up with music that seemed to fit what we were seeing there on the screen and probably even provoke more emotion?
Well, I took a lot of guidance from the vets themselves. We all just sat in a room together watching the film, and it first and foremost addressed what points needed music, either for transition or to sort of underscore a specific emotion. And we started talking abstractly about if we were trying to bring something out, from beneath the surface, what color was it? Was it in a minor key or a major key? Was it higher up on the cello, fast and frenetic, or lower and wallowing in something, or joyful? All these things. We just did it together in the room. It took honestly maybe 2 hours. Everybody was so great at communicating with me, and improvised the whole thing to their spec, and it's just a great time, and such an honor too to be part of such a really visionary project.
When we were watching the film, there are parts of the film where the music becomes agitated, such as when they're driving and then things are happening on the screen where we're seeing an explosion or something going up ahead. How did you change that? What were your thoughts behind that?
Well, the cello itself is it's very similar to the human voice. I mean, it works a lot like a larynx, with the strings being these long things that vibrate, a certain frequency, and in many ways, I've been playing it all my life. So when it came time to insert a sense of agitation. I use some extended technique to do it, manipulating the instrument to kind of make it sing the way I want it to.
So you not only composed the music, but you also performed the music.
That's correct. Yes, I composed it and played it. Actually, I didn't quite compose it. I improvised all of it.
But you took your inspiration from a classical composer.
Yeah, I did draw off of a Bach suite for the first one, kind of using that chord progression and improvising off of that, and that would actually be consistent with how Bach would have liked it. Old classical music worked a lot like jazz with charts, in the sense where here's your head and you got to follow this and end up here. So I kind of worked it in that fashion.
Besides the cello, is there another instrument that you would have picked for this?
No, I think the cello was really nice. If I could play piano, I would have gone there maybe for this film.
I think the cello was perfect.
Well, thank you. I'm really glad how it worked out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bill Stravinsky actually worked at the state attorney's office, and he helped to set up the Veterans Treatment Court. So Bill, nobody can say it better than you. Why is it so important for people out there to understand through tools like this documentary, Returning, how challenging it can be for a veteran returning from a tour, trying to assimilate back into civilian life?
Okay, it's a pretty heavy question. The best way I can explain it is just kind of in a nutshell. So service members, when they enlist, traditionally they enlist at 18. Obviously, sometimes they don't, but traditionally they enlist at 18. And then you have your officers that go through college, and then they are commissioned at 22 or somewhere thereabout. Well, when they do that, they get into a 4-year commitment, and those that are 18 years old, they just graduated high school. They don't know who they are. They haven't understood what it is that they want to do in life. They can't identify with anything 100%, because who are we in high school and who are we now are two completely different people. So they get into the military, they do their 4 years in the military, and some of us, like myself, who say, all right, I did my 4, I'm ready to go back home, I'm ready to go to school, I'm ready to start a career and a family. We go back home, and the best way I can describe it is a mental health provider spoke to me when I left the military, and what he told me is, he says, Bill, you got to understand, you have to reacclimate. Just like your body has to reacclimate when you run in Florida and want to go run in Colorado, your body has to physically acclimate. Well, your mind has to as well. You were 18 years old when you went in. You joined the infantry in the Marine Corps, which is a pretty extreme job. You adapted to that lifestyle, and then at the end of your 4 years, you went back into the civilian community with a new identity, with a new approach in life. So the point that, well, excuse me, let me rephrase that. The opportunity that Triforce Pictures has given us, that Project Rebirth has given us, that Sarasota Film Festival has given us, and that my co-founders and founders and SRQ Vets have purposefully designed our nonprofit organization is to ease that transition, is to create a group that veterans can identify with. Because the truth is there are groups all over this town, and there are groups all over every town. You have your typical people that like to work out. You have your sports enthusiasts. You have your artists, whether it's dancing, singing, or acting. You have your architects, your lawyers, your doctors. You have all these groups that people identify with. Well, veterans can identify, one, with a veteran group. But then when they come back into the community, they have to re-identify. They have to find one of those groups that they like and that they enjoy and that they want to be part of. That's very challenging, especially when you have these extreme experiences. When you have this memory that comes back of an IED going off or a lost friend. How do you cope with that? How do you explain to this group that you're trying to re-identify yourself with, how do they understand that? And that's not their fault, and that's not the veterans' fault. What we're trying to do is bridge that disconnect. So instead of a veteran-only organization or a veteran-only event, we want the civilians to be there. We want them to be there to partake, to listen, to understand, to open new doors, to possibly find new opportunities. That's the idea.
By creating more things like the Veterans Filmmaking Academy, where veterans are working with a group of people where they understand the mindset, are we creating then more opportunity for veterans to live a successful life and stay out of things that might get them into trouble, like drugs and things that they would look to, if we provide those opportunities?
Yes, I think so. The idea is, okay, so when you're a vet and you, what we call EAS, end of active service, you get out, you come home, you don't have to wake up for your 0600 morning reveille formations. You don't have to shove chow down your throat and get back to the quarter deck or the staging area. You don't have to do any of that stuff. You get to come home, relax, sleep in, grow your beard out, let your hair grow. And those are great because they allow the veteran to decompress. But the truth of the matter is it's all about human behavior. And when you do that, you start building new habits. And some of those previous habits that made you a motivator, that made you, that gave you inspiration, that allowed you to focus on a goal, that allowed you to achieve things that was initially instilled in you, that strong discipline from the military, some of that gets lost. But it's not lost. It's just sometimes it gets clouded. So the idea is we're here to tell vets, like, listen, you can have your long hair, you can have your beards, you can sleep in and have a good time, but don't forget, you still have that in here. And if we can re-tap into that, you're going to see some of the best employees. You're going to see some of the best entrepreneurs. You're going to see some of the strongest ideas. You're going to see some of the most passionate examples of creativity. All you have to do is re-tap into it. That's it. Just jumpstart it.
Well, when it comes to saying why this film is important for civilians to see, I think you just hit the nail on the head, because it does create opportunity.
Yeah, this was veterans. This was they were given a task and they were given equipment and they sat down and said, all right, there's the goal. Oh, look, there's a wall. Well, what are they going to go around it, over it, under it? Those don't work. Well, let's go through it. And then they got it done.
So now that we've seen the film, Returning, the documentary, is it what you expected? And tell me what your reaction is to the film. What did you think about it? It's a first effort on these veterans' parts.
Honestly, the film and the whole evening and the support in this community for this project exceeded any expectations that I dared to have, where everyone that came here from the Project Rebirth organization floated out of that theater, I have to tell you. And I'm not sure when that floaty feeling is going away. The film is excellent. It's truthful. It just screams authenticity because the people telling the story have lived the story. And I don't know if I've ever seen anything quite like it in all my years of working in this world. So I'm blown away.
How do you feel the elements all came together with the judge from the Veterans Treatment Court all the way to the young veteran that was having such a difficult time to his peer navigator?
I think the filmmakers did an amazing job of drawing those threads together, and particularly in a relatively short film. That's an amazingly subtle thing to pull off, and they did it. They let all of us into a world that most of us don't know exists, even though it's right here in Sarasota, and they introduced us to people we never would have met that now we'll never forget, especially the judge. He's awesome.
He is quite a character, and he definitely was very supportive of the veterans, but almost like a paternal figure in saying, look, you did this, so you're going to go and, go in for a day and take your punishment. And they seemed to do it, he seemed to dole that out without malice.
Yes, without malice and with the utmost respect for the veterans and their service. And I think that is a magic mix that he has happened there. I'm a fan.
Ray Chapman has not only served our country, but she is also the director of the documentary Returning, and I must say, looking absolutely stunning for this world premiere.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
So, Ray, now that you've seen the movie and the reaction to the documentary of all of Sarasota that came out, both veterans and civilians, how do you feel? Describe what you're feeling.
It's just unimaginable. You feel proud, you feel humbled. Just mainly, I think that's the biggest feeling. I just feel humbled in the sense that those veterans trusted us enough as filmmakers to capture them on film with some very, very sensitive moments, very vulnerable.
Now, for the veterans and for the civilians in the audience, it's going to be a very different experience. What do you hope that veterans take away from this film after seeing this, and what do you hope that the civilians learn about people that have served our country when they have to return and try to assimilate?
I think first, for the veterans, it's understand that people do love you, even those that don't know you. And they have put their energy and their lives and their passion to reach across the divide and pull you over. And sometimes I think it's more that the civilians reach inside the cave and pull us out. And so let them help us. And for the community, just thank you for caring.
And we do care tremendously. We care tremendously. You did a beautiful job.
Thank you very much.
And I want to know what inspired you to go into directing. This is a very, very special film. You did a beautiful job.
Well, thank you. I really do have a passion about the veterans, but I think somewhere in there became part of a transformation for myself. I think when I was younger, my grandmother used to say, I never thought you knew how to talk. You just don't talk. You just watch everybody. And so when I went into the Marine Corps, for the first time as a woman, I found a voice. But my voice was telling the story and advocating for those that worked with me. Once I went to war, I lost my voice. And that's when I had someone that didn't know me, hadn't met me, stood in a room and said, I will be your voice today. I have you. And it was a civilian. It was a social worker at the VA. And I could not physically speak. And I was so blown away that someone cared like that. Through this film, I found my voice now. And so I have a voice again.
I am sure that for many that saw this tonight, and for the many that worked with you on this project, you have probably helped quite a few find their voice as well.
I sure hope so, and if anything, just so they have hope. It gets better.
This is one of the fine young men that has served our country, and we're lucky enough to be standing here at the Sarasota Film Festival this evening after seeing the world premiere of the Veterans Filmmaking Academy, The documentary is called Returning, and it touched many emotions and brought to light many of the problems that our veterans face when they are returning from their tours. The difficulties that they come back to, which is also filled, though, with hope and prospects of the future, given the right tools to help make their life successful. So we learned a lot about it, and not only were veterans there, right there in the audience, but also many civilians, and both had a lot to learn from this and also get that feeling of hope. So from the Sarasota Film Festival, and a big thank you to Triforce and to all the people that participated and supported the film festival and our veterans, whom we salute. This is Alex Redmond for METV.